Hello everyone, this is Mukul, your botany mentor, coming with the 5th session of Power Hour, in which we are going to cover plant kingdom, biological classification, microbes in human welfare. So first of all, in today's session, we are going to discuss a short trick and mnemonics of plant kingdom and biological classification. Because lots of questions they are asking on the basis of example, and it is little bit difficult to learn the example or to memorize the example. So in today's session we are going to discuss a mnemonics of the plant kingdom and biological classification. And what about microbes in human welfare? In case of microbes in human welfare, we are going to discuss some important points from previous year. The topic which is very important from previous year, the question is asking from which topic of the microbes in human welfare. This topic we are going to discuss in today's session. So let's start with the today's session. This is the 5th session of botany at April, plant kingdom, biological classification, microbes in human welfare. Consider that 3 questions from plant kingdom, 3 MCQs from biological classification, and 1 or 2 MCQ from microbes. So today's session having a contribution of 8 MCQ, nearly about a 32 marks. Let's start what we are going to discuss. Subtopic. First subtopic is short tricks for example of plant kingdom, mnemonics for the example of plant kingdom. Second, short tricks for the example of biological classification. And third one, microbes in human welfare. But what we are including into the microbes in human welfare, that is the important IMP topics. Important topics. So in very first slide, here is a flow chart of the plant kingdom, and in that flow chart they are mentioning plant kingdom is divided into 2 categories, that is the cryptogamy and phanerogamy. So what is exactly cryptogamy? I am writing here, if we are talking about the cryptogamy, do not possess flower or seeds. And when we talk about the phanerogamy, they possess flowering, they are flowering and seed bearing plant. So they are flowering and seed bearing plant, that is the phanerogram. Do not possess flower and seed, that is the cryptogam. So which is the primitive? Cryptogamy are the primitive plant. Which one is the advanced? Phanerogamy are the advanced plant. So starting with the primitive, first category of cryptogamy is a thallophyte. So what is exactly difference between this primitive, thallophyte, bryophyte and pteridophyte? We have to discuss here first. So when we talk about the thallophyte, here all algae are included into the thallophyte. So what is the criteria? Do body, we can write as body did not differentiate or categorize, body do not differentiate or categorize into root, stem or leaves, means they do not possess root, stem and leaves. Now second is the bryophyte. It is also known as amphibian of plant kingdom because reproduction they required water. So second, what about the bryophyte? About the bryophyte, I am writing here about the bryophyte. About the bryophyte, I am writing here that they include mosses and liverwort. So what is the criteria? Mosses and liverwort. What is the criteria for bryophyte? The criteria for bryophyte are do not have vascular tissues, but having stem like, not exactly stem like, root like or leaf like structures, means they do not have xylem and phloem for conduction of water and food, but they are having stem-like, not exactly stem-like, root-like and leaves-like organ. Pteridophyte, vascular tissue are present, simple. Vascular tissue are present first. Second criteria, if vascular tissue are present, then second point is they having a root, stem and leaves. Yes, they are having true root, stem and leaves. Third important point, is they possess seed? No, because they are included into the cryptogamy. Cryptogamy do not possess flower and seed, so they do not possess a seed. So this is all about the cryptogamy. Now we are coming towards the phanerogamy. Phanerogamy divided into gymnosperm and angiosperm. You know that gymnosperm and angiosperm are very, very important according to point of view of plant kingdom as well as anatomy and morphology, and in class 12 sexual reproduction in flowering plant. So here I am writing, if we are talking about the gymnosperm, they are having naked seed, and if we are talking about the angiosperm, seed enclosed into fruit. This is a simple. And in case of angiosperm, if we divide the angiosperm, there is a monocot and dicot. And if we are talking about the monocot, single cotyledon, and here is two cotyledon. Now a single cotyledon, my question is very simple to you. Single cotyledon of a monocot seed is known as, a straight away a question to you, single cotyledon of monocot seed is known as, do you understood my question? Single cotyledon of monocot seed is known as, it is known as scutellum. It is known as scutellum. So now we already discussed about the plant kingdom, cryptogamy, phanerogamy. Cryptogamy divided into thallophyte, bryophyte and pteridophyte. If we are talking about the phanerogamy, divided into a gymnosperm and angiosperm. Now second most slide. Now this algae, that is the plant kingdom, cryptogamy and thallophyte. This thallophyte include algae. Algae is divided into three classes. Algae is divided into three categories. First category is Phaeophyceae. Second category is the Chlorophyceae. Third category is the Rhodophyceae. Phaeophyceae is known as brown algae. Chlorophyceae is known as the green algae. And Rhodophyceae is known as red algae. Now, how to remember this thing? In some time, on the time of exam or in between exam, we do not remember the name of Phaeophyceae, Chlorophyceae and Rhodophyceae. So here is a short trick. Algae we can remember with the help of one short letter PCR. PCR stands for polymerase chain reaction, we know that. But here P stand for Phaeophyceae, C stand for Chlorophyceae and R stand for Rhodophyceae. This is a short trick for remember the name of algae. So mnemonic explanations are, algae is divided into three major group. The mnemonic represent the initials of each group, that is the Phaeophyceae for brown algae, Chlorophyceae for green algae and Rhodophyceae for a red algae. I hope so you understood the categories of algae. Now each category of algae having different example, and we have mnemonic for that also. Let's try to discuss the mnemonic. Before that, we have to discuss one common chart. From that chart also, in NEET examination, question is going to ask. So now here is a common name. In common name, green algae, brown algae and red algae. You know that Chlorophyceae is known as green algae, Phaeophyceae is known as brown algae, Rhodophyceae is known as red algae. Now the pigment, major pigment present in Chlorophyce, you know that chlorophyce, green algae, green color due to chlorophyll. But here is chlorophyll A and B. We have to remember, if we are talking about the green algae or chlorophyce, then chlorophyll A and B. Second, for brown algae, there is a trick. Chlorophyll A is common. Chlorophyll B is replaced by chlorophyll C. Understood the thing? Chlorophyll B is replaced by chlorophyll C. And one another main pigment which is responsible for brown color is a fucoxanthin. Next, red algae, chlorophyll A is common, chlorophyll A is common. Here chlorophyll B, chlorophyll C, chlorophyll D, and the pigment which is responsible for red color, this pigment is known as phycoerythrin. This pigment is known as phycoerythrin. I hope so you understood the major pigment of chlorophyce, phaeophyce and rhodophyce, that is green algae, brown algae and red algae. Let's discuss stored food. Green algae, simply it is stored food in the form of starch. But when we talk about brown algae, it stored food in the form of mannitol and laminarin. And this word we have to remember for the exam point of view. Now, when we are coming towards the red algae, Floridian starch, but Floridian starch. If we are talking about the cell wall, chlorophyce cell wall made up from cellulose. Then Pteridophytes cell wall made up from cellulose and algine, and Rhodophytes cell wall cellulose. Most probably, if we are talking about the plants, the cell wall of the plant kingdom having the content of cellulose. So here, in case of green algae, cellulose. In case of brown algae, there is a algine plus cellulose. In case of red algae, cellulose. Remember the thing. Flagella, position and insertion. There are 2 to 8 flagella in case of green algae, but apical. 2 flagella unequal but lateral, and flagella is absent. Very important and crucial point. Flagella is absent in case of red algae. It is found in deep inside ocean. Look, the light particle penetrate till 500 meter in an ocean. So till 500 meter, red algae, brown algae and green algae, all type of algae are present. But deep down the ocean, very deep down, very little light is penetrated. In that position also, in that depth also, red algae is the only algae which is present. Now, one another point, that is the habitat: fresh water, salt water, brackish water, fresh water, salt water, brackish water, fresh water, salt water and brackish water. Those are the habitat. Now, coming towards the second short trick. Now, we have 3 categories of algae: Phaeophyce, Chlorophyce, Rhodophyce. Brown algae, green algae and red algae. Now let's talk about the brown algae, Phaeophyce. The example of brown algae are Sargassum, Ectocarpus, Laminaria, Fucus, Dictyota. Thus 5 examples we are going to remember with the short trick. The short trick is self-defense. The short trick is self-defense. Self-defense. Now, S stand for Sargassum, E stand for Ectocarpus, L stand for Laminaria, F stand for Fucus, and this D stand for Dictyota. Simply self-defense. If you remember this word, you can remember all the example of Phaeophyce. So self-defense: Sargassum, Ectocarpus, Laminaria, Fucus, Dictyota. Now, mnemonic explanation. Phaeophyce refers to the brown algae. The mnemonic: Self-defense is used to remember the different example with this group, that is including sargassum, ectocarpus, laminaria, fucus and dictyota. I hope so you understood this mnemonic. Second mnemonic is related to the chlorophyce. Second mnemonic is related to the chlorophyce, that is the green algae, and let's discuss second mnemonic. US has very clean colleges. We have to pick first letter. US has very clean colleges, and I am adding and cafes. Now, first U represent the Eulothrix. Second S represent the Spirogyra. V represent the Volvox. Clean C represent the Chlorella. Second C represent the Chlamydomonas, and third C represent Cara. Cara is also a green algae. Now a small short trick. US has very clean colleges and cafe. All initials U Eulothrix, S Spirogyra, V Volvox, C Chlorella, C Chlamydomonas and C for Cara. Easily we can remember all the example of chlorophyce with this short trick. I hope so you remember. Let's discuss about the third trick. What is the mnemonic explanation? Let's discuss this. Chlorophyce represent green algae. The mnemonic US has very clean colleges and cafe helps to remember the example within this group, including Eulothrix, Spirogyra, Volvox, Chlorella, Chlamydomonas, and one example which is missing here, that is the Cara. We modify a short trick for this example. So let's discuss another algae, that is Rhodophyce, named as red algae, and shortcut trick is PGPG. One shortcut trick is PGPG, or we can say that 2PG. Well, we can say that 2PG, or one shortcut trick I am giving from my side. There is one show which is coming on the channel Pogo. Pogo is a very funny channel. On that channel there is one show, if you remember. So I am writing here Pogo Pe Gali Gali Sim Sim. Did you remember this show, Gali Gali Sim Sim? This coming on the channel, that is a Pogo. So the shortcut trick is very simple. First P of Pogo, that is represent Polysiphonia. Second P represent Porphyra. Third G represent Gracilaria, and fourth G represent the Gelidium. So Pogo, Pe, Gali Gali Sim Sim, or 2PG, any trick you can use. Just remember the example: Polysiphonia, first P; Porphyra, second P; Gracilaria, third G; fourth G, Gelidium. Shortcut trick for Rhodophyce. Here PG is also okay. 2PG is also okay. Pogo Pe Gali Gali Sim Sim is also okay. Just we have to remember the example of red algae. If you recall those all three category, first category is Pheophyce, that is round algae, self-defense, sargassum, ectocarpus, laminaria, fucus, dictyota. Second, Chlorophyce, US has very clean colleges and cafe, Eulothrix, Spirogyra, Volvox, Chlorella and Chlamydomonas and Cara. Third one, PG, 2PG or Pogo Pe Gali Gali Sim Sim, Polysiphonia, Gelidium, Porphyra, Gracilaria. Easily we can remember all the example of all three categories of the algae, that is brown algae, green algae and red algae. I hope so you are enjoying this session. Let's discuss the example of Bryophyta in upcoming slide. For the remembering purpose, I am giving you a 1 minute of time. I am taking water and let's discuss the Bryophyta within a 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds of time. Anyone in the chat section? Okay. Let's start another category, that is Bryophyta. And if you remember, Bryophyta are known as amphibians of plant kingdom. Bryophyta is known as amphibian of plant kingdom because they required water for reproduction. Now, a short trick to remember all the example of Bryophyta is plasma membrane is semi-fluid. Plasma membrane is semi-fluid. P of plasma represent the polytrichum. M of membrane is represent Mertensia. S of semi represent the sphagnum, and F of fluid represent the funaria. This is the one trick which is given here. I am giving you another trick, that is the complementary trick for remember the example of bryophyte. You know that bryophyte is divided into two category. Which are those two category? Anyone of the class? Do you know bryophyte is divided into how many categories? Bryophyta is divided into two categories, that is known as mosses, and second one is the liver earths. So one example of liver earth, how we can remember the one example of liver earth? Liver is very essential organ of our body, and if there is no liver, there is no individual. So the liver represent the life, and Mertensia, mer means death, that is the if there is no liver, insan or a individual can't be a living. That is why the example of liver earth is Mertensia. The example of liver earth is Mertensia. But now for mosses there are three examples. One example is polytrichum, second one is the sphagnum, third one is the funaria. So I am giving you another trick to remember the three example of mosses. Mostly politicians take spa for fun. This is the only shortcut trick. I am not representing any political party for your kind information. This is only a short trick to remember the example. Okay, this is the only purpose. Now, mostly, M-O-S, mostly represent the mosses. Second word is a poly. Poly represent the polytrichum, which is the example of mosses. Spa, S-P-A, spa. Spa represent the sphagnum, which is also an example of mosses. Fun, F-U-N, fun represent the funaria, which is also an example of mosses. This is very short and sweet trick to remember the example of mosses and liver earth. For mosses, mostly politician take spa for fun. For liver earth, it is liver and Mertensia. So mnemonic plasma membrane is semi-fluid is also okay. If we are going with the categories, this mnemonic is also okay. Any mnemonic you like, you can use or remember for your NEET examination. I am okay with both. Now, let's discuss the grow liver earth about liver earth. The example of liver earth, just we discussed the example of liver earth is the Mertensia. That grow usually in the moist shady habitat, means they also required water for their growth. Bank of stream, that is the two river, the location which is present in between two layer. For example, this is the one river, this is one second river, and this area is known as the bank of river. On that location also liver earth is present. Marshy ground, little bit what we can say, a moisturized area, damp soil, bark of tree, wherever liquid moisture is present. This is the healthy environment for growth of liverwort. Their body is thalloid. An example is Merkensia. Thallus is dorsiventral and closely oppressed as a substratum, and the leaf membrane have a tiny leaf-like appendages into two rows of the stem. For example, this kind of structure they are having. Their body is looking like this. Now, if we are talking about the mosses, then the predominant stage of the life cycle of mosses is gametophyte. What exactly this point want to say us or want to discuss with us? That is, gametophyte is dominant in case of mosses. So how come it is dominant? It is only possible when sporophyte is dependent on gametophyte. Only in this condition, this gametophyte is dominant over the sporophyte. Let's discuss how it is happen in case of mosses. There are two stages of gametophyte. First stage is protonema stage and second stage is leafy stage. How protonema stage is looking like? For example, this part is represent a body of an mosses and this kind of structure, fragmented structure. I draw here this kind of fragmented structure is known as protonema. Now, this protonema have small bud. Protonema have small bud. So, gametophyte having protonema, which is n in number, because gametophyte, so n in number, haploid in number. And second stage is leafy stage. There is a small bud which is responsible for formation of this kind of leaves. This is known as leafy stage, and this leafy stage is also n in number. So both leafy stage and protonema both combinedly represent a gametophyte, and gametophyte is dominant in case of mosses. This is the one thing. When we talk about the sexual reproduction in case of mosses, we have to draw a complete diagram of protonema, leafy stage as well as the sporophyte. Let's discuss. Protonema, it is developed directly from spore. Yes, it is a creeping, green, branched and frequently filamentous. Look, creeping, branch, filamentous. Next, leafy stage is developed from the secondary protonema as a lateral bud. Look at the point. Here is one bud from which this leafy stage is developed. So that's why they are saying in the point, it is developed from the secondary protonema as a lateral bud, and they consist of upright, slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. Yes, they are having spirally arranged leaves, as well as they are attached to the soil through a multicellular and branch rhizoid. So we have to draw here one more structure. This is attached with the soil with the help of the structure. It is known as rhizoids. This is known as rhizoids. I hope so you remember, you understood protonema and leafy stage. Now, what about the sexual reproduction? Understood point first. If they are talking about the sexual reproduction, it means two gamete or two type of individual is going to be used. The antheridium, which is a male gametophyte, archegonium, female gametophyte, are produced at the apex of leafy shoot. At the apex of leafy shoot, we just draw a leafy shoot. On that apex, we are going to draw antheridia and archegonium. After fertilization, zygote is developed into sporophyte having foot, seta and capsule. Just read this point. I am going to draw a different diagram on a blank slide to understand this point. The sporophyte is in mosses is more elaborated than the liverwort, okay? And the capsule contains spore, okay? Spore are formed by meiosis, okay? For us, mosses have an elaborated mechanism of spore dispersal. All 5 points we are going to discuss in detail. Let's draw one protonema here. This is one protonema, and this protonema having small bud, having different type of leafy stage here. So this leafy stage have one structure here. This structure having n number male gamete. This structure having n number male gamete. On other side, I am drawing another protonema having a small bud, having leafy appendages, and here this structure contain n number egg cell, that is female gamete. So we can now call this as a male body. We can call this as a female body. We can call this structure in which male gamete are present is antheridia, and which contain the egg cell archegonium or archegonia. This complete structure, archegonia, male gamete, archegonium, antheridia, and all male gamete, leafy stage, gametophyte, all those are having ploidy n. Ploidy n. All the structure having ploidy n. So this both we can say that it is a gametophyte. Gametophyte, which is having ploidy n. It is also gametophyte, which is having ploidy n. Now, this is the point where everything is changed. It is present inside water. It is present inside water because it required water for fertilization. Bryophyta is known as amphibian of plant kingdom. This is known as amphibian of plant kingdom. So we can say that the male gamete, we can call it as an antheridium. With the help of water current, with the help of water flow, travel towards female gamete, archegonia. N number of female gamete, n number of male gamete fuse together to form a 2n number zygote. Now this zygote is not going to convert immediately into the spores. It is going to develop. What is going to develop? It is going to develop into this kind of structure. This lower part of this structure is known as foot, which is having 2n ploidy. This structure is known as the seta, having 2n ploidy, and this structure is known as the capsule, having 2n number ploidy. Now inside the capsule there is a meiosis, because capsule is made up of 2n number cell. If there is meiosis, then this 2n number cell is divided into n number haploid spores, and those haploid spore, whenever come in the contact of water, it is developed into a female body or male body, and it is not differentiated into the male body or female body, but due to cross pollination or sexual reproduction, we are talking about the male body, female body. One spore is responsible for formation of complete body having male gametophyte as well as female gametophyte. We draw different here because we are going to show a cross pollination type of thing. So thus remember, whenever this spore coming in the contact of favorable condition or water or a moist soil, it can develop protonema, leafy stage, and the structure. For example, zygote is 2n number, food seta capsule 2n number, all those represent 2n number structure, and this is known as a sporophyte. Now this sporophyte can't do photosynthesis. So for food, they are dependent upon this leafy stage or protonema. That's why gametophyte is dominant and sporophyte is recessive in the cases of mosses. I hope so. From this diagram, you can understood all the point, that is the Antheridia and Archegonia. Antheridia and Archegonia are present at the apex of root. After fertilization, zygote developed into the sporophyte having food seta capsule. Do you understand food seta capsule? Yes. The sporophyte in the mosses is more elaborated than that in the liverwort. The capsule contains spore, and spore are formed after meiosis, and mosses have elaborated mechanism of spore dispersal. I hope so you understood all those 5 points with the help of this diagram. If you want to click a snap of this diagram, you can take a snap. You can relate this snap with the help of this point, and easily you can understood the cycle of the mosses, and mosses is very important according to the NEET point of view. That's why in detail we discuss about the mosses. Now we are not going to discuss everything in detail like Pteridophyta, gymnosperm, angiosperm, because we have a less time. Only we can say that 20 minutes remaining, and biological classification examples, microbes, important point, important topic we have to cover in today's session. So let's take 30 seconds of break and start another topic. I am taking little water. Okay, done. I hope so everyone took a snap of this topic. Now we have a example of what we can say mosses, Funaria, Sphagnum, and Polytrichum. All 3 examples we understood with the help of one shortcut trick. I don't have to repeat this trick because you know that. Now after that, Pteridophyta. For Pteridophyta, there is one short trick to remember. Perfect lovers eat apples softly. A funny trick. Perfect, P represent the xylotum or pteris. L represent the lycopodium. E represent the equisetum. A represent the adiantum. And S represent the selaginella and salvia. This mnemonic give us the example. We can learn the example easily with the help of this trick, but I have this setup. With the help of this, we try to remember the example. Look, a xylotum having only one example, Xylopsida having the one example, that is the xylotum. Easily we can understood Xylopsida, xylotum, Xylopsida, xylotum. But for Lycopsida, there are 2 examples, Selaginella and Lycopodium. For this we can easily use a shortcut trick, that is the I love or like, I like Selena. If you think I don't know the spelling of like, you are wrong, because I write like LYC, because Lycopsida we have to remember. Like represent the Lycopsida, Selena represent the Selginella, and Lycopodium, LYC represent the Lycopodium. So example of Lycopsida is Selginella and Lycopodium. I like Selena. Phenopsida. Phenopsida, consider a sphere. Sphere we have to divide equally into equal parts. Sphere we have to divide into two equal parts. Phenopsida, the example of equisetum. Example is equisetum. And last one, Pteropsida. Pteropsida. So assume that you are on the terrace and a complete wind are flowing on the terrace. So we can call this high flow wind is known as the Andhya. So does Andhi represent the adiantum? Anthiantum, okay. So Pteropsida, Dryopteris, adiantum and teres are the three example of Pteropsida. It's a simple trick to remember all classes with the example, as well as you can use perfect lover, eat apple softly. Simply with this mnemonic you can remember the thing. I hope so you understood. Now for plant kingdom, gymnosperm, CD shop, Cycas, Sequoia, Pinus, Cedrus. Very easy. For angiosperm, they are not given us the trick for angiosperm. Why so? Because angiosperm is a vast group. It is not a short group or limited group, it is a vast group. For angiosperm, we have separate 3 chapters. First chapter is morphology of flowering plant. Second one is anatomy of flowering plant. Third one is sexual reproduction in flowering plant. So in that chapter, we are going to discuss lot of example of plant king, we can say that angiosperm. So here angiosperm they are not discussed. Now the trick for 5 kingdom classification, you know that 5 kingdom are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. It is easy to remember, but still we have trick map of places. Map of places. MP map. MP represent Monera, Protista. OF of represent, F represent the fungi. Places PLA, PL represent the Plantae and A represent the Animalia. Map of places. Now second, if we say the Monera, Monera represented by the BCP. What is BCP? B stand for bacteria, C stand for cell wall, P stand for prokaryote. So all bacteria included into the Monera. Second, cell wall is a characteristic feature and it is made up from peptidoglycan in case of Monera. Prokaryotic cell is present into the Monera and it is only kingdom having prokaryotic cell. There is a lack of membrane bounded nucleus in case of prokaryote or Monera. Now second mnemonic for Protista. So mnemonic is very funny mnemonic. Dinosaurs carrying egg on slippery places. Dinosaur D carrying C, eggs E, slippery places. Now dinosaur D represent dinoflagellate, C represent the chrysophytes, E represent the euglenoid, S represent the slime mold and P represent the protozoan. So dinoflagellite, chrysophyta, euglenoid, slime mold, protozoan are the example of kingdom Protista. Now third, kingdom fungi. Now in Mumbai, we are on Chennai channel, but in Mumbai, which fast food is famous? So your answer is vada pav, sir. So vada pav we can write it as a bada pav. It is not vada pav, it is bada pav. BADPAO, bada pav. B represent Basidomycetes, A represent Ascomycetes, D represent Deuteromycetes, P represent Phycomycetes. Now we have all this category, but in that category also there are various examples. Means Basidomycetes divided into various examples, having various examples. Ascomycetes have various examples. Deuteromycetes, every category of kingdom fungi have different examples, and we have to remember those examples. So for Basidomycetes, what we can say, for Basidomycetes we have mnemonic that is Agra to US via Pakistan. So I don't think so you want to travel Agra to US via Pakistan. You have to take a direct flight. But for mnemonic, we have this mnemonic Agra to US via Pakistan. AGRA. AG. A represent agaricus. Then US, us represent estelgo, that is a smut. Agaricus is the mushroom. PAK, PAK represent Puccinia, that is the rust fungi. Those are the three examples we can easily remember with the help of Agra to US via Pakistan. Now, second one is the ascomycetics. For ascomycetes, the examples are write yes with new pencil. Write S with new pencil. So YE represent yeast and S represent aspergillus. NE new represent neurospora. P and pen represent the penicillin. Those are the example which is common example. There are a lot of example of ascomycetes, but those are the common example. Here is yeast. We can say that is the exception of kingdom fungi. Why it is exception? Why it is exception? Because it is unicellular in nature, and all other groups or organism present into the kingdom fungi are multicellular. Now, the shortcut trick for phycomycetes is RAMU, RAMU. R represent rhizopus, then A represent albuco, MU represent mucor. Those are the common example of phycomycetes. I hope so you are getting my point easily. You are understood all this thing. We are coming towards the virus, viroid. How we can differentiate virus and viroid? So you know that virus have, what virus have? Virus have a protein assembly as well as genetic material in the form of RNA, DNA, whatever it is. But viroid is a naked genetic material, so there is no protein coat. So how we can remember this? You can easily differentiate the name virus, because virus and viroid, we can differentiate the end part of virus. Yes. Virus, yes. So it sound like yes. At the end, it is sound like yes. So yes to protein coat. Now, what is viroid? Viroid, it is sound like avoid. So avoid, which can be inferred as avoid protein coat. Easily we can remember or differentiate virus and viroid. Virus having protein coat, viroid avoid protein coat or do not have a protein coat. Easy trick. Yes, simply write. I hope so you are getting my point. Let's discuss another thing, that is the lichen. Lichen is a symbiotic association between algae and fungi. So algae is like a wife and fungi is like a husband. A hard working husband absorb H2O and CO2 given to the algae. Algae prepared a glucose with the help of this CO2 and H2O, and this glucose is used by algae as well as fungi. So both are living together, happy marriage life. Okay. Now, lichen. Confused about the terminologies given to the algae and fungi? Part of lichen. Well, do not worry. Remember the given two images and word Alfonso and funny mice. On basis of Alfonso mango, Alfonso. Al represent algae. Fanso, that is a phycomycetes. Then fungal component, funny mouse. Funny represent the fungi and mouse represent the mycobiont. So algal part is the phycobiont and fungal part is known as the mycobiont. I hope so you understood all the example of biological classification and plant kingdom till that time, and we are having 10 minutes, sharp 10 minutes, and in this 10 minutes we are going to discuss some important point of microbes in human welfare. So there are one or two questions they are going to ask from this chapter, microbes in human welfare, but it is little bit related to the biological classification. So we took this chapter with biological classification. Plant kingdom, we took a lot of time because on the basis of mosses they are going to ask you a question. On the basis of example they are going to ask you the question. But in case of biology classification, we wrap up in 20 minutes. This is the time management. Okay. So 30 minutes for plant kingdom we given, 20 minutes for biology classification, now only 10 minutes for microbes in human welfare. It is not that difficult. Let's start with the first slide, that is the antibiotics. What is antibiotic according to you? Sir, we fall ill. We took antibiotic from medical. We took it. Water. Relax. No. Antibiotic is itself produced with the help of microorganism. Now how it is possible? Look at the point. Saccharomyces cerevisiae or brewer's yeast is used in the production of beverages by fermenting malted cereal and fruit juice to produce the ethanol. This is the another thing. This is another thing. This is not antibiotic. I am talking about the antibiotic, then it is a accidental discovery by Alexander Fleming in 1929. In 1929, he is working on one bacteria, that is the Streptococcus pneumoniae. And while working on this bacteria, he left his Petri plate on the platform and went towards the home. Now, second day when he came to his lab, there are fungus developed on this Petri plate of having Streptococcus pneumonia bacterium. Now, he think, let's remove the fungus and try to study the bacteria. When he removed the fungus, he observed that all bacteria are dead. So he understood that because of fungal growth, bacteria are dead. It means fungi have some property to kill a bacteria. Now he developed first antibiotic, that is the penicillin, with the help of one fungus, that is the penicillium. So this is the accidental discovery of the antibiotic. Means antibiotic is discovered with the help of, or we can say that antibiotic is formed with the help of itself a bacteria, one microorganism responsible for killing the other microorganism. So that's why we are talking this in microbes in human welfare. Other than that, here Saccharomyces cerevisiae is also bacteria responsible for formation of fruit juice, ethanol. Ethanol is alcohol. So the question in your mind that how come ethanol is useful, sir? It is not good for our liver. No. Ethanol production is a wide business in India. So for businessman purpose, it is good. So it is human welfare as well as who have habit to drink daily. For this person also, this is a human welfare. So wine, beer are produced without distillation, without clarification, without distillation, wine, beer is produced. They are going to ask you the question on the basis of this also. Whiskey, brandy, rum, gin, arrack are produced by distillation. Fermented whiskey having 48.2% alcohol, brandy also having good, rum having 15 to 20% alcohol, gin having 20% alcohol, as well as we can talk about the beer having 8% alcohol, 2 to 12% alcohol, wine having 15% alcohol. So no, I am not a regular person, okay, because I have completed my BTech from food technology, MTech from food technology. That's why I know the examples as well as the percentage of alcohol present into the drink. Okay. Now, antibiotic can be chemical substance produced by some microorganism used to treat various type of bacterial disorders. Penicillin, this is the Alexander, he is the Alexander Fleming. On 1929, he discovered the antibiotic. Now he is working on the streptococci. As I told you, Penicillium notatum is a penicillin, or Penicillium notatum is a fungi which is responsible for killing of the streptococci. So that's why he discovered this. Now, for that, Ernest Chen and Howard Florey established its full potential as an effective antibiotic. For that, Fleming, the scientist which is originally discovered, and what we can say, the modification is done by Chen and Florey. So for that purpose, Fleming, Chen and Florey were awarded for the Nobel Prize in 1945. Now, those are the four, what we can say, a microorganism, fungi, bacteria both, are responsible for formation of organic acid. Now on the basis of this, easily one PYQ you can find in your any book. Now, Aspergillus niger. When we talk about the Aspergillus niger, a fungi produce citric acid, Acidobacter aceti, itself a name, bacteria represent formation of acetic acid, Clostridium botulicum, in name only, butyric acid, Lactobacillus bacteria, lactic acid. So we have to remember all the microbes responsible for formation of organic acid. So alcohol, yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae is responsible for produce alcohol. Enzyme lipase used in the detergent formulation help to remove a oily stain from the laundry. Third use, pectinase and protease to clarify a bottle juice. Fourth one, streptokinase, very very important according to point of view of NEET. Streptokinase, produced by Streptococcus, used as a clot buster to remove a clot from a blood vessel of the patient who have a myocardial infection. Now, another very important, according to NEET point of view, cyclosporin A, produced by Trichoderma polysporum, that is a fungi, used as a immunosuppressive agent during the organ transplantation. So during organ transplantation, the receptor's body is trying to resist the other organ. So for that we need immunosuppressive agent. This immunosuppressive agent is a cyclosporin A. Statin, this is also very important, produced by Monascus purpuricus of yeast, used as a blood cholesterol lowering agent. In today's date, guys, in today's era, the cholesterol level is increasing due to the unhygienic food consumption and all other factor, unhealthy lifestyle and all other things. So the statins, which is produced with the help of yeast, which is the fungi, unicellular fungi, this statin we can use as a blood cholesterol lowering agent, and it inhibit the enzyme responsible for synthesis of cholesterol. So this is very important slide. So today's session is done with the help of plant kingdom. We discuss plant kingdom, biological classification, microbes in human welfare. In plant kingdom, if you remember, we start with algae, and in algae thallophyte it is divided into three type of algae: green algae, brown algae and red algae. What we can call it as a green algae, brown algae, red algae, there is a shortcut trick, PCR. P stand for Phaeophyceae, C stand for Chlorophyceae, R stand for Rhodophyceae. So now coming towards the Phaeophyceae. The Phaeophyceae have a various example, Chlorophyceae have a various example, and Rhodophyceae also have a various example. Phaeophyceae, the shortcut trick is self-defense. For Chlorophyceae, shortcut trick is US has very clean colleges and cafe. We modified this trick because we need a Kara, so and cafe we added. Now for Rhodophyceae, PG, 2PG, or one very useful trick is Pogo, Pe, Gali, Sim. So Gali, Sim. So Gali, Gracilaria, Gelidium. Pogo, Pe. P is for Polysiphonia, second P for Porphyra. So those are the things we did in today's session. In case of biological classification also, we did a similar thing. So in today's session, we discuss a lot of things related to the plant kingdom, related to the biological classification, related to microbes in human welfare. I hope so you enjoyed this session. Let's meet to the 6th session, and in this we are going to discuss some important topics, some important PYQs, some important mnemonics. I hope so you enjoyed this session. Bye bye, take care, and thank you so much for joining.